Welcome to The Explainer, where we peel back the layers on, well, complex topics. And today we're diving deep, right into the world of cybersecurity. So, what does it really take to be a master hacker? And maybe more importantly, what does it take to stop one? We're going to explore the entire modern cybersecurity landscape, everything from building a career in defense all the way to the tools used on both sides of this digital fight. All right, so let's start with the first layer, building a legitimate, high-demand career. Most people get into this field thinking it's all about offense, all about hacking. But the reality of the job market, it's pretty different. Yeah, check out this quote from expert hacker OTW. 80%. That number really flips a common misconception on its head. The vast majority of good-paying, stable jobs are on the defensive side of things, what the industry calls the blue team. So, how do you get there? Well, here's a pretty clear four-step path to get you started. First, you got to master the system you use every single day, right? Windows, Mac, whatever it is. Then, you start building those universal skills. You learn the basics of Linux, you really get how networks talk to each other, and then you start developing some scripting skills with powerful stuff like Python or PowerShell. Okay, but that brings up that classic problem, right? The entry-level job that wants 5 years of experience. So how do you get around that? Simple. You build your own experience. You can contribute to open source projects. That shows real-world skill, shows you're committed. Or hey, volunteer for a nonprofit, maybe even your local church. It proves you can actually apply what you know, and it helps you get over that feeling of imposter syndrome that, trust me, everyone in this industry feels at some point. All right, now let's peel back another layer. To be a great defender, you have to think like an attacker. You have to know their tools. And what's kind of unsettling is that the line between a professional security tool and a criminal's gadget, it's often just about intent. And a lot of this stuff is available with just a few clicks online. So, first up, covert surveillance. We're talking about devices designed to secretly record audio or video. And these can be used for anything, really, from corporate espionage all the way to illegal spying in places like hotel rooms or Airbnbs. And these things can be incredibly well hidden. Seriously, we're talking about cameras that look like a normal power outlet, or a car key fob, or even just a pair of glasses. There are even devices that can literally listen to conversations right through a wall. The real power isn't just the tech, it's psychological. They're designed to be totally invisible, just completely eroding any sense of privacy you thought you had. Okay, so moving on from cameras and mics, let's talk about another category of gadgets. These are the ones that mess with all those invisible signals that are flying around us every single day. And this is where it starts to get really wild. You've got tools like the Proxmark 3 that can clone a building's RFID access card right out of someone's pocket, or these car key relay kits that can amplify a key fob signal to steal a keyless car right from the driveway. And get this, even USB cables that look like a regular phone charger but are actually designed to inject malware onto a computer. I mean, this isn't science fiction. This stuff is used in the real world every day, and it works because it exploits the very convenience we all love. So we've seen the hardware. Now let's dive even deeper into the really sophisticated software attacks, the kind that can get past even your most secure online accounts. Okay, you have to see this. This is called a browser-in-the-browser attack, and it is so clever. It's a way to get around two-factor authentication by playing on your trust. So an attacker tricks you into logging into the real website, let's say your Gmail. But you're doing it through a web browser they control on some cloud server. And since it is the real Gmail site, your password works, your 2FA code works, everything seems totally normal. The social engineering is just brilliant. It looks right, it feels right, so you don't suspect a thing. But as soon as you're in, poof, the attacker kicks you out and takes over your fully authenticated session. And it's not just your web accounts that are at risk. Check this out. This is the basic setup for a modern Android remote access Trojan, or a RAT. What's so insidious about this attack is how it hides in plain sight, using legitimate services. It starts with a Trojan app, maybe disguised as Instagram, on the target's phone. Then it uses Google's own Firebase platform as its command server. So all the communication just looks like normal app traffic. And from there, the attacker has a simple web panel where they can control everything. Your messages, your calls, your files, the whole shebang. Okay, so after seeing all the power attackers have, it's time to flip the script. Let's look at the countermove. How can regular people, you and me, use technology to figure out if we're being followed? Well, there's this open source tool called Chasing Your Tail that just completely changes the game. See, the old way was location-based. You'd ask, Did I see the same device at the coffee shop and the library and the grocery store? But that doesn't really work if you're on a long drive, right? This new way uses what's called temporal correlation. It asks a much smarter question. What devices are near me right now that were also near me 5 minutes ago, and 10 minutes ago, and 15 minutes ago? It's that constant closeness over time that's the real giveaway. But wait a second, this brings up a really good question. What about MAC address randomization? Don't our phones constantly change their hardware IDs to prevent this exact kind of tracking? I mean, they're designed for privacy, right? So how could you possibly follow one single device if its address keeps changing? Well, the answer is absolutely fascinating. And it all comes down to something your phone does constantly, without even thinking about it. See, even when it's using a random MAC address, your phone is basically shouting out the names of all the Wi-Fi networks it remembers, trying to see if any are nearby. And that list of networks, it's a unique signature. Think about it. The combination of my home Wi-Fi, work_guest, local_coffee shop, and mom's_house Wi-Fi is probably unique to you. It's like a digital fingerprint. So even though the MAC address is random, that combination of network names can be used to identify your specific device over time. The big takeaway here is that your phone's own history can actually give away your identity. Whew, okay, so let's synthesize all this. We've gone from the white hat career path to gray market gadgets, we've dived deep into modern attacks, and we've come back out with open source defenses. So what's the big picture here? What's the takeaway for all of us? First, let's circle back to this number, 80%. It's so important. This isn't just some random statistic. It represents a massive opportunity. The overwhelming majority of the cybersecurity industry is about defense. That makes it a stable, growing, and frankly, essential career field that's all about protecting things, not just breaking them. And that really brings us to the new rules of our digital reality. Rule 1. A strong defense starts with the fundamentals, not just a bunch of fancy hacking tools. Rule 2. Attack tools are cheap, they're accessible, and they often have perfectly legitimate uses. Rule 3. Really sophisticated attacks can now bypass our traditional security measures, things like 2FA. And maybe the most important rule of all, powerful open source tech is now available to everyone, both the good guys and the bad guys. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. In a world where the tools to both attack and defend are open source, free for anyone to use, who is ultimately responsible for your security? It makes staying safe more personal and more critical than ever before. Thanks for watching.